In the decade following their 2004 grand final loss, Brisbane were in a state of mediocrity before modern times have labelled them a team that was close but not quite good enough. Are the 6-2 Lions heading into round 9 going down the same path of close but not close enough, or is this team made of sturdier stuff? Let's have a chat. Before we get started, I have launched a new series on Patreon called Underrated. Pretty simple. I do a career retrospective over some of the more underrated stars of the AFL from past times, starting with Joel Corey, the Geelong champion, played 287 games and actually represented Australia in baseball before giving that up for footy. In a Geelong midfield that was as stacked with talent as it was, I thought the great man deserved a write-up and a show of respect for the star that he is. And you can access the Joel Corey piece, whether you are an All-Australian or a Premiership player, on my Patreon. So either $3 or $5 a month if you want a little bit of bonus content. You can join up for $3 a month if you want all of the bonus content. That will cost you $5 a month. Patreon.com/DazTalksFooty. It is the best and easiest way to support the channel, and I really appreciate everyone that has jumped on board so far. But let's talk about Brisbane. Like I said, 6-2. When those losses, sure, they were concerning at the time. That disaster game at Marvel Stadium against the Bulldogs really had people thinking, it's the same old Brisbane. And that round 1 game against Port Adelaide was just, right now, looks like a blemish at this point in time, because since that Bulldogs game, Brisbane have been electric. And don't forget, this is the only team in the competition that has beaten Collingwood. That's not nothing. And in the last few weeks, yes, against weaker opposition, and I kind of want to talk about how that annoys me a little bit later on, but they are starting to win around the traps. Brisbane are kind of one of those teams that are cursed with winning by big margins. When you've got a easy kill on the AFL fixture, you're expected to win, and almost by no matter what margin. Footy fans don't give you the credit at all. You look at the North Melbourne St Kilda game, one of the worst games I've ever seen, and St Kilda fans are annoyed that they only won by 30 points. Brisbane smacked North at Mount Barker and got no credit for it. But they were supposed to. So, they still did. That is okay. If your child had gotten 90% on all of their math tests, for example, they went and did another math test and got 90%, are you really going to say, but you should have? No, that's an awesome result and they should be congratulated for it. I'm not saying Brisbane are children here, but surely at some point we've got to respect the fact that you can show up on a day, play some of your best footy and bury an opposition. North will take more scalps this year. West Coast might not, let's be honest, with their injury list. But the Hawks probably are. So when teams beat up on these sides, it really annoys me how fans go, but so they should have. The AFL is so unpredictable. You have got to take these results and run with it. And boy, Brisbane have. I was really impressed with their game against Freo a couple of weeks ago. And I'm going to talk about their midfield mix in a minute. But what Brisbane have got going for them, and is probably the overarching point of this video, is they are nowhere near their best right now, and they're still winning. And winning convincingly against some bad sides. So what does that mean? Well, let's look at a stock market style. Let's see whose players' stocks have risen and fallen throughout 2023. So Jack Payne, understandably, started getting love from the media on prime time against Charlie Curnow. He's been great all year, the great man. Whereas you look at guys like Josh Dunkley as well, who's been really, really good. Again, there's been some, he's doing what was expected of him. But he's still doing it, which is great. The weird part for Brisbane, in my opinion, is you look at the guys whose stocks have fallen a touch. Hugh McCluggage and Jared Berry were fantastic against Carlton, no doubt. But their years up till that point were really poor. And Lincoln McCarthy's had a couple of good moments, but I really don't feel like he's taken a game by the scruff of the neck just yet. And with the injuries now to Dane Zorko and Daniel Rich, we're going to get a look at a bit more youth from the Lions, with Kitty Coleman going to be the undisputed man to rebound that ball out of the Brisbane's defensive 50, and on that weird half-forward midfield hybrid mix, Zach Bailey and Cam Rayner actually get to be half forwards. And that's the bit about Will Ashcroft's season that I feel like's going under the radar a bit. Last year, Rayner and Bailey were your weird hybrid half-forward midfielders. They were playing both positions and therefore playing neither position at all. Think of it as a bit like Shea Bolton this year. If you take out his West Coast game, that being the shaker, of course, he hasn't really been a half-forward. He hasn't really been a midfielder. That's what Zach Bailey and Cam Rayner were last year. Now, sure, have some games been better than others? Of course, that's the nature of being a half-forward player. But with Zorko out and the mix of Neil, Ashcroft and Dunkley being their A1 midfield, those two can legitimately be pinch hitters and threats forward of the ball, which they are doing. Which I know some Brisbane fans and even some footy fans are going, yeah, we saw it a mile away, why didn't they? I mean, sometimes it really is worth a shot. Zach Bailey's only 23 years of old. Years of old. There you go. He's only 23 years old. He's still young. And I love him. Zach Bailey's one of my favourites. But where Brisbane are going right now is they look so much more structured on the field. They're playing positions, which is great. Half forward is the most underrated part of a football ground. You think of Alex Neil-Bullen for Melbourne. Is he one of their stars? No. Structurally, he holds up beautifully because he's a connector between the midfield and the forward line. Think Adelaide in 2017. Tom Lynch. Not that Tom Lynch, the other Tom Lynch. Think of Richmond during their premiership years. Shane Edwards. Now, he had to play taller than a half forward, but still, he didn't have to go into the midfield and have 12 centre bounce attendances to have a massive impact on the game. Geelong now, Brian Myers is kind of playing that half forward role. He's not kicking as many goals, but he is, I think, leading the competition in goal assists. That's what Brisbane have to do, playing their positions. Harris Andrews is not the same player as he was. He doesn't have to be because Payne stepped up. That's what's been good about Brisbane. The improvement has felt organic, and it's been good to watch. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Come on, Daz. You know what Brisbane's weakness is. It's what could cost them a grand final. It's the tall forwards. I would argue that Joe Danaher is having the most complete season of his career. He is working up the ground to the eye test a lot more than he's done in previous years. Now, I don't trust Eric Hipwood. I don't think that's outlandish to say. But, if this isn't the best he's going to be this year, that can only be a good thing. Improvement's fine. If you're peaking at round 8, you've got a problem. And it's why we need to keep such a close eye on teams like St Kilda, Adelaide, Essendon, and the like. Is this the best they're going to be all year? Or do they have levels to go to? I think Brisbane have got levels to go to, but it's whether the players can reach those levels is where I'm a bit hesitant to put them in that tier 1 of teams like your Geelongs, your Melbournes, your Collingwoods. Not necessarily in that order. Don't get in the comments going, but Melbourne or Collingwood's better. That's not the point here. I just listed them, guys. It's not that serious. Where else Brisbane are going really, really right? Normally at this point in the video, or maybe even a little bit earlier in, previous videos, I normally go, this is what a team does well. This is what a team doesn't do well. Brisbane nearly do everything well, and not well at an elite level. I'm not making this up. Nothing I put on a graphic, or anything that I say, really, is an out-and-out lie. But look at that. I mean, how can you not look at this team as a genuine threat? Now, I think they're in tier 1.5, if that is a thing. I think they're better than a tier 2 team. They're not quite at that 1.5 team. But in my opinion right now, Brisbane are the 4th best team in the competition. And whoever I think is 5th, I haven't really done a power ranking and don't want to do one off the top of my head because releasing a video like this will mean that's absolutely my opinion and you're never going to be able to hide away from that. Kind of like the AFL media that are bitching over things they say flippantly. I don't really want to do that in this video. But the top 3 are set. Brisbane are set in 4th. Maybe a little bit of a gap. But there is a gap between Brisbane and the next teams down. And there are a lot of teams in that next rung. Now, what's to come for Brisbane? Well, they've got a relatively good fixture, but when you're playing as good a football as they are in the last 5 weeks, every game looks winnable. Genuinely winnable. And they're a team that we're going to keep an eye out for. So do I think Brisbane are going to win the flag? I don't know. I think they can though, but I'm not willing to put them in that upper echelon for a couple of reasons. One, when it comes to finals, you need your hands on the footy, and Brisbane are currently a bottom side when it comes to handling the footy. That is a little bit of a problem in my opinion, as a couple of those statistics are. But once again, some of those really, really good statistics that they've got as the season levels out, some of them they'll drop down in. Now, they'd like to think that they'll keep, hopefully, a majority of those statistics in the top 4. You're going to need to in order to win the flag. That's kind of how this works. But it's about getting those statistics that you're not that great in up a bit. Now, being top 8, top 9, top 10 in everything is ludicrous. Even Geelong last year had some statistics where they were like 12th. And that's fine. What you do need to be a contender is a set of statistics and a game plan to back it up, that what you are better than everyone else in the competition, that's how you ram your advantage home. Geelong, the short kicking game, overlap run, they did it better than anyone else last year. It's how they won the flag. They went and they ran with it. Richmond were the best pressure team for 5 years. Won 3 flags out of it. Should have been a 4th, but they were stopped by an American. The same thing. You cover your deficiencies with your strengths. If your deficiencies are taking away from your strengths, you're not a good football team. But at this point in time, Brisbane's deficiencies are not taking over their strengths just yet. And if Jack Gunston is fit come finals time, Hipwood is not going to need to kick 4 or 5 a final for them to win. 2 or 3 each from Danaher, Gunston and Hipwood are probably going to win Brisbane most games because, of course, the rise of Charlie Cameron has been amazing. I think Oscar McInerney's having a really underrated year in the ruck position right now, and that midfield mix is settled now. So at this point in time, I feel more confident about Brisbane than I have in any previous season in the last 5 or 6, but I'm still not ready to put them on that podium yet because A, I want to see more of this and see their season develop, and B, of course, I'm in the same boat as those who feel lesser about Brisbane a little bit, and that is, they just need to get there. I feel like if they do get to the granny, they might not be a team that gets that showed up by the occasion, like I say, with guys like Lachie Neale, Jack Gunston, etc., etc. They've got that leadership there, but getting there seems like the big obstacle. Think Port Adelaide. In that 2000 to 2003 region, they were finishing on top of the ladder nearly every year, falling over in the finals, but once they got there, they didn't have a hell of a lot of premiership experience in that side, but it seemed a bigger barrier to getting there than to winning one. That's how I feel about Brisbane. What do you guys think? Comment below, let me know, subscribe to join the Daz Talks Footy family. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.